feel the rain. It's holy, 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 holy. After the pain, it's glory, 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 glory. Everybody got their own story. When you hear mine, please don't feel sorry. It's the good with the bad.
My name's Julian. I'm here with Aaron Wylie. Aaron Wylie is a professional soccer player. He's been so gracious to join us here on the show to teach us a little bit about his journey and maybe give us some tips and tricks to be able to get to the level he got to.
Yeah, for sure. Tip one, don't join the quarantine haircut challenge.
Oh, it's looking good.
No, it's not bad.
Yes.
It's not bad, yeah. I thought it was gonna come out a lot worse than it was. But no. Yeah, man, I mean a little bit about me. So my last season that I played in was in Sweden. I got back pretty late 2019. Just been kind of training. I was prepping for this current season where I was going to go play in Iceland. With COVID-19 and everything, it kind of got put on hold. So just hanging around with the family, training every day, trying to stay fit and stay sane.
Okay. What team are you playing with in Sweden?
So it was going to be in the second tier.
Awesome.
To be quite honest, I don't even know how to pronounce the team's name. I can look it up and send it to you, but yeah, I was supposed to be there like a month and a half ago, and that all just kind of got put on hold.
Was that in Iceland or is that Sweden?
Yeah, that was in Iceland.
Okay. And then you played for which team in Sweden when you were playing there?
IFK Os.
IFK Ost.
Yeah.
Awesome. How was that?
Man, it was cool. It was really cool. Like, so a lot of the teams are based in rural areas.
Okay.
So where you're living is just kind of like mountains, forest, lakes. So it's really cool and serene and all that. And then you usually travel into town and whatnot to like the training facilities or to your game facility and all that kind of stuff. But it was a really cool experience.
Nice. Yeah, so you lived in the rural area and then you would travel to the city and that's where the stadium and training ground was?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was kind of weird. I'm trying to think like a Minnesota equivalent of like you would have just been in the boonies really, like where you're living.
Wow.
And then finally, like, game days and stuff, you get to go travel to Minneapolis or something to where your facilities are.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
how long did you play for them?
So I played with them all the way through 2019.
2019. When did you
Yep.
start playing with them?
When did I start playing with them?
Yeah, how many years did you play with them for?
So I only played in Sweden for 1 year. Before that, I played in Australia for 2.
Australia. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
So I was thinking we could start from kind of the beginning. Like
Yeah, for sure.
like 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids and
Mhm.
learn a little bit about, your past. You grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, right?
Yeah, I did.
What was your journey like in a nutshell growing up? When did you decide you liked soccer and when did it
Yeah.
become a serious part of your life?
Okay. My parents put me in soccer when I was, I want to say 4 years old. And it was more so to just kind of like get me out of the house so I'd stop running around and breaking stuff.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like had a little bit of a knack for it, like you're super young at 4 and who knows what can happen. But
Right.
there were kind of like little signs here and there where it's like, man, he's picking up on stuff really quick, whatever.
Right.
And from there, I just started like playing more and more and more. And then honestly, like first grade, um, we had like a career day at our elementary school and all of the kids, we had to draw where we saw ourselves in 10, 15 years, whatever.
Yep.
And on that day, I drew like myself playing in a stadium, playing professionally, whatever. And from there, it's always kind of been an idea. But I would say when I was about 12 is when I had kind of decided like, okay, for sure, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to work towards. But then, so from 4 all the way until 14, I played for Soccer South. So that's like a rec club.
Yeah.
I was like really fortunate to have coaches who kind of understood the game and everything. But in terms of competition,
Right.
there really wasn't any. So you can be as good as you want, but if you're not playing against high level opponents, it's really hard to get better.
Right.
And you know, I just couldn't join like any of the like select or academy teams in Iowa just because it was a lot of money. But at 14, luckily the academy or whatever they call themselves an academy, but not really.
Right.
They were like super gracious and offered me a scholarship to go play there. So from 14 until 18, I was with the Des Moines Menace.
Okay.
But yeah, man, in Iowa, like when I was growing up, there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for soccer. It's gotten a lot better now because there's more people that are getting involved and giving back who've had really cool journeys.
Right.
But when I was growing up, it was kind of hard to navigate. There wasn't really anyone in Iowa who could guide you or who knew someone that could really help you grow and progress. So for me, I kind of felt not trapped, but at times I didn't really know what I could do to get to where I wanted to go. And that was kind of frustrating growing up, being a kid with a dream. So
The dream starts at about 12 years old.
mhm.
It's very helpful to kids to know that you played till 12 years old in a rec club. I mean, that's very helpful for a lot of people that might be playing in, a C2 situation or playing in a rec club, but love the game.
Yeah,
Because you went
sure.
from playing in a rec club till about 14 years old, and then you went pro. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
amazing right there. When you got
Yeah, I
to
appreciate
14
that.
years old, what changed? You went to quote unquote a select club, right? What was
Yeah.
the training like? What was the commitment like? Now we're 14 years old. We're growing up. What
Yeah.
were you doing to get better at soccer?
So when I joined the Des Moines Menace, it was really cool. The coach I had there, he played at a super high level, was still an amazing player as a coach. Very passionate for the game, like in the way that he spoke, it was just like super infectious. But there were a couple of us that knew we really wanted to try and make something happen. So, man, I mean, the environment was a little better. The training sessions were a little more organized and more focused on technique, tactics, all that kind of stuff. There was a little bit of a learning curve for me because I had gotten by pretty much just on natural ability.
Yeah.
And I had learned a little bit more about the game, but really what happened is I just was playing more. I'd show up early to training and get some extra work in. Then we'd train, and then a couple of us would stay afterwards. We'd get even more training done. We were finding ways to like play pickup soccer. We'd go over to a buddy's house who lived in a cul-de-sac or something and would kick around. And that was one thing that helped all of us a lot is to just play all the time.
Right. How many days?
Yeah, like in any capacity.
Like if you had to estimate, like how many days were you training with your team? How many days a week were you playing? You kind of had to give us like a number of hours almost growing up. How many hours were you training a week, if that's possible to even answer?
Kind of cutting off a little bit here. Um,
Can you hear me at all?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So what I was saying is, if it's even possible, could you estimate how many hours maybe you're training a week growing up when you're, 14 and older?
Oh, yeah. I mean, before I had to worry about like recovery or, got a little older and the body's starting to catch up, man, I was probably training. I would maybe dedicate like 4 hours, 5 hours of doing stuff. So our trainings would usually run, but that's like per day. So our trainings would run, yeah. Our trainings would run roughly like 2 hours, and then maybe you have like 30 minutes added before and after where you show up early, stay after late. But then my friends and I were just like fiends for the game. There were tennis courts at this high school that we live by, and they have stadium lights over it that have like a dial switch, so we could just show up at midnight or something. So we started what's called midnight soccer, and we just get a whole bunch of people together, do like street soccer tournaments, whatever. And yeah, that's where we got a lot of our playing in.
That's amazing, dude. Thank you.
Yes, it was so fun. It was so cool.
Right. Coming from us being, a street soccer grassroots organization, hearing those stories right there, that really connects with me because that's what,
Mhm.
I love and that's what I believe in too. So
Yeah.
so the playing definitely was a huge part. You're training 4 or 5 hours a day, roughly 5 days a week, 6, 7 days a week. How many days?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, 6 days a week. Yep.
6 days a week. Okay, so if you're looking to go pro, everyone, right? At the age of 14, you should be thinking about training. If you love the game enough and you really want to put yourself in this
Yeah.
position to go pro, you should be training 4 or 5 hours a day, playing how many, playing every day, like playing just pick up every day.
Yeah, for sure. Anything that can get you on the ball, because like, fitness will always come. If you're showing up for a team, preseason, whatever have you,
Yeah.
always be fit.
Always
But
fit. Okay.
yeah, but like, the fitness will always come. The thing that a lot of people kind of mistake is that there needs to be a balance, but I've talked with a lot of people, and I think a lot of people spend too much time in the weight room or doing all this other stuff and not enough time on the ball, because the skill, the talent, your ability to read the game, all that kind of stuff is really what's going to make the difference.
Absolutely.
You
Okay.
know?
Now we've kind of moved our way through your young career here playing in Iowa. What was the next chapter in your life there?
So after I finished with the Menace, I was 18 and I decided to go to Augsburg University in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So I went there to play, did that for 4 years, which was really cool. Really awesome program.
Greg Holker,
Uh,
right?
yeah, exactly. Greg Holker, Evan Foose was the assistant while I was there, along with Andy Seidel, who was there for my first year as well. And then Joe Voller stepped in after Evan Foose left.
Oh, okay. Good.
Um,
Great staff
yeah,
there.
yeah, they're all awesome people. Definitely help you become better soccer players, but like even better men. It's cool. Like all the character building and the emphasis on leadership opportunities and personal growth. Really cool. Super awesome.
A little bit about that. Yeah, I mean, that's huge. It sounds like from what you're saying in your own development. So tell us about what
Yeah.
happened there that
Um,
influenced you.
yeah, well, what was really cool is like, so preseason, for example, when we go in, our preseason days are extremely structured. We get a printout of like every day in preseason, and each day just lists all these activities. So it'll be like 7:15 wake up, enter all of your vitals into this program, so we can check where you're at, with your sleep and your fitness and all this kind of stuff. This time breakfast, this type of training here, lunch, like it's all structured. Um, but then we also had leadership opportunities. So during preseason, they would do this workshop, and it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
So one of Greg Holker's friends, Todd Stapleton, who he has like the whole alphabet after his name with like all these really cool certifications and whatnot. But he would come in and teach these habits to us, and it would be like an interactive workshop. So we'd like have one day dedicated to each habit, so our brains aren't like overloaded and we actually have time to like learn, process, and apply all these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would do a lot of things like that and give us opportunities to, develop mentally, develop as a leader, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, that kind of played in to my success going forward with soccer as much as all of the work did with the training.
So that's the mental aspect of the game, right?
Yeah, 100%. And they teach you about visualization and the importance of, like picturing where you want to be, and then, like taking that image and creating a set of long-term objectives and short-term goals to help you reach that end product. And like, man, the learning curve for me was unbelievable. It was really cool.
What age do you think you could start learning stuff like that?
Man, you could do it right now. Like when I was in first grade, I subconsciously did it. I couldn't be like,
Right.
however old that is, I couldn't be like, yeah, I'm gonna go practice visualization. But you just kind of like create this idea of
Right.
who you want to be,
Uh-huh.
and you just constantly are chasing after that, and it's really cool because you visualize this thing, and then maybe you get there, which is awesome, but then you get to sit back, kind of like reassess, create new goals, and now you have this upgraded version of what you want to be, and you get to chase that, and it's just this repeated process that's really, really awesome.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, so you can start as young as you think you're able to. If you have a vision that you feel that strongly about and you're passionate about it, like by all means go after it.
maybe you'd be so kind to share any resources with these kids if you have a couple that I could link.
Yeah. So I do like guided meditation.
Okay.
There's not, what's his name? Man, I can look it up real quick, but so I found him on a podcast, and um, he does like a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
So if you look up his like YouTube videos and stuff, he does a lot of guided meditation that has to do with like visualization, creating this person that you want to be, and all this kind of stuff, and how to just kind of center yourself in pursuit of that image.
That's amazing.
And yeah, that's helped me a ton. It's awesome.
Okay, awesome. So you heard it here. Aaron's saying work on guided meditation. We'll provide some of the resources that you can check out, that podcast from Dr. Joe. And so then we'll move on now. Your college career was very structured. Physical aspects of the game were important. And then you were doing a kind of like a self-growth period of your life, right? Where you're learning about the mental side of the game. What was next after you moved on from college? I mean,
So
your career started, right?
yeah, it kind of started. It was interesting. So after college, I was lucky enough to join Minnesota United. But I joined their reserve squad that was playing in the NPSL.
Yeah.
While Minnesota United was in the NASL, like
Right.
their first team. So I kind of knew like the structure of US soccer in terms of like everyone knows you have MLS, NASL, USL, that
Right.
kind of stuff. I had no idea how to navigate it, really no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to play professionally, and I felt like that was a good opportunity to hopefully move me closer to what I was trying to achieve. So I joined them like 2015-16.
Yeah.
So I played a season there, but as we were transitioning to the MLS,
Right.
a lot of us were let go just
Right.
because they were cleaning house, they were bringing in new coaching staff and training, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the guys that I played with on that team, I don't know how he heard of it, but there's a program or agency in Chicago called Bridges FC.
Bridges up.
So they have like a couple different like reasons of functioning. One of them is they serve as like a place during the off season where current pros can go and train, and like you have technical sessions in the morning, and then early afternoon everyone shows up to play, and it's a way to play against high level opponents and also stay fit, be sharp on the ball. But then the other one is for the guys that don't get picked up by teams, or the guys that just don't have contracts, don't know how to get contracts, whatever. You stay, so it starts in November, and you train all the way through, and then usually like January, February, March, depending on where you play, all the pro guys leave, and then whoever's left, you kind of create a team, like a farm team, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then first week of July, you head over to Scandinavia, and you play against professional teams there in hopes of either getting picked up by one of those teams or having a scout come to the game and pick you up.
Right.
Or just kind of like being in the right place at the right time, and some random person walks by the stadium and knows someone who needs a player in your position, like whatever the case may be, but they just try and provide that opportunity for you.
Right. Is Bridges FC anyone of any age can participate in, or what's the vetting process like for them?
Yeah, so the way, there's really not like an age restriction. I think probably the youngest person that we have training there is like 15, 16, and they're all incredible,
Right.
but they don't turn anyone away normally. Like during that whole period, you can kind of like show up and jump in and train and all that kind of stuff. And if it's your goal or your intention to try and get a contract and want to like join the team that gets to go over to Europe,
Right.
they'll have a serious look at you, and they'll help you as much as they can, but they're also doing everyone the favor of being brutally honest.
Of course.
Like, so when I left Minnesota, or when I was let go from Minnesota United and I went over to Bridges,
Right.
I got there in January. So my buddy and I just like packed up all of our stuff, moved to Chicago. We were living in this apartment with like 9 other dudes that were trying to do the same thing we were. So it was crazy, man. It was like a trap house or something, you know. But that first year, I was training from January all the way to July, and I was training with the team that was going to go to Europe,
Right.
but I didn't get selected
Okay.
to go.
How'd you
So,
feel about that?
you know, they kind of did me the favor of like, hey, man, you know, we love your work ethic. We think that you have the potential and the talent and all that kind of stuff, but
Right.
you're not good enough right now.
Right.
And honestly, like that moment was the moment that kind of kickstarted everything for me, you know, because when I first got there, um, I was definitely one of the worst people out there. I was just dealing with like a different caliber of player
Right.
that I hadn't really been exposed to before, because a lot of these guys were playing in the MLS or the USL, or they were playing in Sweden or what have you. And I went through a period of, man, like I'm out here working so hard, but I'm getting exposed, I'm getting embarrassed, I'm failing. And then
Right.
finally I get hit with that where they're like, hey man, you know, like you're not good enough. And it wasn't, they weren't saying I was never going to be good enough. They were just saying I wasn't good enough right now.
And you were training
So
as much as them. You were working just as many hours as everyone else in this. What do you
more,
that's
more.
4 hours than everyone else? So what do you do with that? You're told you're not good enough. You're putting in the time. You're putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Can you put in more time? Like, is your body able to take more, or what did you do to get that extra edge that set you apart, that got you
Mhm.
to where you are now?
So I just had to refocus the kind of training that I was doing. So I thought, you know, I'm in here moving more weight than everybody. I'm in here longer than everybody. But the one thing that I didn't really realize is like, hey, man, you've got to recognize what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and you've got to play to both. So I realized that one of my strengths is, you know, like, hey, man, I might not be the best technically, but I can run forever. So I'm really going to utilize that, and I'm going to try and read the game better
Okay.
and you know, like use my body to make up for the lack of technical ability at the level I'm trying to play at. And
Right.
then I understood on the other side of that, hey, my technical ability needs to at least be here. Like I've got to get one of my feet above this level.
Right.
And when you kind of refocus your training and you have specific goals of what you're trying to achieve, you'll see rapid improvement, because what I was doing is like, hey, I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to do whatever these guys are doing, and it's
Right.
going to be cool.
Yeah.
But they were already doing what I was just talking about. They were doing training specific to themselves and what they wanted to work on. So I just kind of went back to the drawing board, took a better look at, you know, what I needed to do for myself,
Right.
and focused more on that. And I just embraced failure, you know, like
Right.
that was a big thing as well. I just understood like, um, so Tony Gonzalez, you know, he was a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, played the last couple seasons with Atlanta Falcons, arguably the best tight end to play the game. I listened to a podcast that he was talking on, and it was cool. He just kind of talked about how like when you perform really well, you get upgraded to a certain level, and then after you're upgraded, you're with a new caliber of people. You're with the big dogs, but you're going to get exposed, embarrassed, humiliated, whatever.
Exactly.
Then starts the hard work, and then you perform, and then you upgrade. And now you're with a new caliber, then you get exposed, you work hard, you upgrade, and it's like this repeated process.
Wow.
So as soon as I could embrace that, then didn't matter. Like put me out there with these guys, I'll get embarrassed. I don't care because I know that I'm getting better.
Right. That's a great mentality right there. Wow. Took you till, did you have that growing up, or would that have been hard for you to understand at a young age? Or, I mean, that's a pretty
Um,
concept to understand, right?
yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's like something that has to do with age. I think I always had a little bit of tenacity and drive, and I'm ultra competitive.
Right.
So that type of mentality has kind of been instilled within me, but to be able to unpack it and
Right.
really understand it, that lets you push through with a new kind of strength, because now you're conscious
Yeah.
of what's going on, as opposed to just kind of like having it being there without you being able to analyze
Right. So you get to that next level now. You face that adversity. You've reached that next level. you're put in this new competition. So what happened after? You went from not making a team to you're playing professional. What changed?
Yeah, so after the team left in July,
Yeah.
I continued to train, and then Bridges FC started back up in November once everyone's season ended. So all these guys that I had trained with the year before, and some of the guys that I trained with while we were all trying to go to Europe,
Yeah.
they all came back, and it was just like it was so noticeable the improvement that I made. I was right there with a lot of the best of them. I was covering ground. I was reading the game. I was banging in goals. Like I was flying compared to the previous me.
Right.
Just a couple months before, and I was extremely fortunate through a little bit of networking of my own and a friend that I was training with. We didn't have to wait until July to go over to Europe. We landed trials in Australia
Okay.
in the month of February. So he and I just kind of on a whim, we were like, yeah, we'll do it. So we packed our bags. We're flown out there, and yeah, we just showed up to the training session, started practicing with the team, and 2 weeks later, we got signed.
Can you give us any insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this one was pretty simple. We scoured the internet for different ways to contact all these teams in Australia. We had a buddy that we were training with who kind of opened our eyes to that part of the world. He was, hey, Australia is a really good market right now. Um, he just put it on our radar, basically.
Right.
So my buddy and I were like, hey, man, this sounds awesome. We're gonna go look into it. We got to do it.
Right.
And we created this, like Excel spreadsheet between the two of us with emails, phone numbers, anything that looked like we could get a hold of someone. We put it down.
Yeah.
And
Calling people, cold calling.
yeah, no, legit. That's literally how it was. It felt like, the entry level sales positions and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. And like I must have sent out like 100 emails, and I heard back maybe from 10.
Okay, that's 10%
And
there. And
yeah,
of
heard
those
from 10.
right?
What's that?
And of those 10%, what was the consensus from those 10?
So out of the 10, 4 were interested and 2 actually made a move.
So
And that was so really out of 100,
right,
only 2 formulated into something.
right. Okay, so I just want these kids to understand something about life right there. What Aaron just said is that he sent out 100 emails about something he's passionate about that wanted to pursue. 100, and only 2 were positive what he wanted. Think about that. I mean, for
Yeah.
anything you're doing in life, 2 out of 100, you're not going to be successful trying the first time, or the 10th, or the 20th, or maybe in his case, the 98th. But if you wouldn't have tried the 99th and 100th time, you wouldn't be playing pro in Australia, which led to Sweden, to hopefully Iceland here. Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Thank you for sharing that right there, because I mean that's
Yeah. No, of course, appreciate that.
yeah.
It's
Okay, so
super
you
wild.
sign in Australia, you fly out there. I'm sure you don't know anyone but your buddy. What happened?
Yeah, we were kind of alone. Like the club manager was super cool. He put us up, and it kind of looked like a cool kind of beach shack
Yeah,
house. Helped get us acclimated to the city. So the first year we played in Brisbane.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I mean, it was crazy because when we arrived, they had just had a hurricane in the northeastern part of the country, and some of that came down to Brisbane. So the rain was ridiculous. So we show up, we're fit, we're flying, we're confident, we're ready to play,
yeah.
and practice gets postponed for like a week and a half.
Oh, no.
So we're just like super antsy. We can't train. But yeah, then we showed up, and after about 2 weeks, they offered us contracts.
Okay. So you were
Yep.
looking at like, is there a division structure in Australia, or how does? Of course there is, but what is?
Yeah, it varies from like state to state or from territory to territory.
Yeah.
Where we were, so they have the A League, which is the premier league in all of Australia.
Right.
Underneath that, they have the NPL, which is now the equivalent of our USL Championship.
Yeah.
And then depending on where you are after that, they have various leagues underneath, and that just kind of changes depending on where you're living.
And is it promotion relegation?
It's promotion. That also depends
Okay.
on where you're living. A lot of places will have promotion up to the NPL, so the second tier, but then there's no promotion into the first tier. It's like the MLS where you have to do an expansion bid.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
And you were playing in which division over there?
I was playing for the first contract, I was playing in the third.
And then the second contract?
Jumped up. So
Nice.
yeah, but that was in a different place. That was in Melbourne,
Yeah. Okay.
in the southeastern part of the country, and that was cool. That was definitely a different experience than in Brisbane. Melbourne is just, as a city, it's a little more diverse. A lot of the clubs are culturally backed, where they have like various European roots, where like the founders or the shareholders, what have you, there's like this club's Croatian, this club's Macedonian, this club's Italian, that kind of stuff, and
Right.
that kind of adds a little bit of spice, So that was cool.
Very nice. Cool.
Mhm.
Big level jump going from the third to second division there?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone for the most part is pretty technical, but I'd say the speed of the game changes a little bit. It's a little more intense. I think guys are a little more fit. Um, there's a little more at stake as well, like as you climb the divisions, people are starting to deal with a little more money
Okay.
as well. So there's more incentive to really show up and put the extra work in. And I think there's a little bit of a more overall dedication.
And were you a free agent, or how do contracts work when you went from third to second? Were you repeating that cold call step again, or did you have an agent at that time? How did you move from team to team?
Mhm. So at the time, I didn't have an agent. Um, I actually wasn't even planning on going back to Australia after my first year. I came back to the US and I was trialing with Phoenix Rising, which is in USL Championship.
You're-
Um, yeah. So that was kind of cool. I thought, hey, this is gonna be the year. It's gonna be great.
Right?
Uh, didn't make it.
Okay.
So now it's towards the end of February, and I'm thinking, well, hey man, I gotta find a place to play,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And um, there's in Australia they do like a player registry, so you have to go to like this national registry, put your name in, whatever, and that kind of locks you in with a specific team.
Okay.
And a lot of times, if you want to move teams, it's not really a big deal. You can deregister. The front office will help you do that,
Yeah.
and then technically you do become a free agent.
Right.
So then you kind of have well, not the power, but like if you're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to
Right.
talk with another team, then you just kind of go about the same process. You reach an agreement, you register, you can sign a contract, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Huge learning experience for a lot of people here, especially these young
Yeah.
guys watching this. You don't hear this every day. So,
Mhm.
okay, so you're back playing second division in Australia. You come back and now is this up to date now? Or is this where we're at right now? Pretty much?
No, so then I went to Sweden after that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then you come back after the season. What do you do in the off season? Are you just training yourself, or do you go to academy, or?
Yeah, so when I'm in my off season, normally what I do is I go to Chicago and I train with Bridges.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's an interesting mix, and from year to year it varies. It just depends on what guys show up and who's playing where and who's available. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's a few MLS guys, there's a lot of USL guys, and some European professional players that will all show up, and we all train together, which is really cool.
Right.
But now, so for instance, like I'm back at home. I don't have access to that kind of stuff here because of, COVID-19.
Sure.
So what I'm doing now is I'll do at home workouts that have to do with, like there maybe hit workouts where you do 6 exercises for 6 rounds, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'll get out and do ball work.
Yeah.
I mean, here I have like the daily schedule, so to speak. So it'd be like wake up, breakfast, some strength and conditioning or fitness. If you want to go on a run that's a little bit longer, you want to do a timed run for distance, you want to do sprints, what have you. then a little bit of reading, whether that's personal growth, self-development, all that kind of stuff, and watching film.
Okay, Bill.
So film is a huge one, whether that's like your own games or pulling up an old game or clips on YouTube or something. Like that's huge. And to not just like watch it as a fan of the game or anything, but
Right.
to really, really study it and watch the guys that are in your position and how they interact with guys that are in positions around you, like understanding relationships and movement and like that's huge.
How do you watch film? I know it can be tricky for some people when you have the camera angles, right? Of
Yeah.
watching EPL and it's focused just on the number 10. And you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what everyone else is doing in relation. How do you watch a game? How do you fix that problem that you see?
Yeah. I mean, really, like for me, I play the six. I play center defensive mid.
Yeah.
So I'll try and watch my guy, for as long as he's in the frame, and then, if he's not in the frame anymore, they kick the ball out wide. Like that's totally fine. Now I'm watching him, and I'm watching this person interact with the people that are around him
Right.
because you get to understand these positional relationships a little better.
Awesome.
And then through there you can kind of piece together where you should be.
Right. So how would you, if you were teaching a kid how to watch film, you gave a couple tips. You were saying that you should watch the relationship, you should watch what they're doing on and off the ball. What kind of film should these guys be studying at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's kind of tricky because
Right.
I mean we talk about this all the time where you know it's not a matter of like lowering your expectations or your ambition, but a lot of people want to watch the highlights of Neymar, they want to watch highlights of Messi, and
Right.
no one will be them except them.
Right.
And that's not to say that you shouldn't aspire to be the best version of yourself at all, because you absolutely should.
Exactly.
But for me, it's like I know that that's not my game. I won't do that.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's also not to say that like you shouldn't watch games of Barcelona for highlight, because their positional play is unbelievable. I
Right.
would just say be aware of what you can do
Right.
in a game,
If you're not
and
fast,
just kind of like
right.
yeah, exactly, like try and emulate that, because you could watch Neymar in a game and
Right.
learn so much, but at the same time it's like, but I also probably like
Not as
at the
fast
halfway line shouldn't rainbow this guy. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
But I mean, the things that I watch for is like I watch for their positional awareness and their movement off the ball.
Yeah.
I look for, and this kind of ties into that as well, but how they interact with the people that are in positions like directly around them.
Yeah.
And then, when they get on the ball, like what's their distribution look like? What's their movement look like? And if you just kind of keep it simple, then it makes watching film a little easier, because you're not having to watch out for a million and one different things. You just kind of are focused on X, Y, and Z, and that's it.
Right. How many days a week do you typically study film? Or would you recommend?
Oh man, you know what? Honestly, recently not as many as I should. In this week, I've only watched film once, but
Week?
you should be doing it every day.
Every day. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's this week was not the most successful week for me in watching it, but
Right.
you should be watching it every day.
Another life lesson from Aaron, right? So there's weeks that you're going to be more successful, weeks that you might not reach those goals, and that you'll just fix, and the next week you'll try to do better, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like if I finish strong every day this week watching film, it's like, okay, I've done what? That'd be 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, next week 4 days is it, and we're just gonna like,
Yep.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. Maybe you would be willing to share some of those like your schedule that you're saying that you looked. Would you be
Yeah,
willing
yeah,
to share like a tentative schedule that the
yeah,
kids,
absolutely. I
hey, if I
can.
want to be like Aaron Wylie, here's the schedule he's following. Maybe they can take tips and tricks off of there. Hey, he's doing
Yeah, for
you know,
sure. And like some people are very much so early risers and like to get everything done right away. So maybe they wake up at 6:30 or 7:15, whatever.
yeah.
Okay, cool. But if you want to sleep in during this time, you wake up 8:30, 9, that's also okay. As long as you're able to get everything in during the day, get enough sleep, it's all good.
Right. And then maybe the last thing we kind of talk about is like it's been a pretty, it's emotional journey, right? But what are
Yeah.
some of the sacrifices that you have to make to go pro that they should be aware of when they're growing up and they say, I want to be a professional?
Yeah, man, I'm trying to think because like I'm 26, so I'm a little older now, and there's a lot of life experiences happening right now.
Yeah.
For like the younger adults,
Right.
I would say a lot of like social experiences. So a lot of my friends are getting married, like a lot of my good friends,
Yeah.
and I'm not able to go to the weddings or be involved in all that kind of stuff. So that's a sacrifice there. But for the younger kids, as you start to navigate through high school and college and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be introduced to drinking, drugs, partying, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you should never show up in social settings at all, whatever. Like there needs to be a balance, but there's going to be a lot of times where your friends are going to go out and they're going to do stuff and it's going to seem so fun and cool and attractive and inviting.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to say no. There are going to be times where it's like, hey, you know, I've set my long-term goals here,
Right.
and what you ask yourself is what I'm doing getting me closer to what I want to achieve? And if the answer is no, you just don't do it. You wipe your hands clean, you move on.
Right. Okay. So Aaron said something that I think is probably one of the most important things he could have said. I asked him about sacrifices, and what he told us is you're going to be faced with other things that are going on in other people's lives that they may like to do, and they might try to pull you in. And he's saying you have to evaluate your lifelong lessons, choose what you want to do, and if it doesn't align with that, then you got to say no to that because it's going to
Yeah.
take you off track, right? If you would have went into that, you probably wouldn't be where you are right now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, it's so easy for us as humans to rationalize why we do what we do.
Right.
Like we are the best at making our own excuses. So it's just a slippery slope that we shouldn't even entertain.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for that part of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
so yeah, we're up to date now. You played in Sweden, right? And
Yeah.
um, amazing experience. What did you think of the experience in Sweden?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was different than in Australia, just like geographically, because Australia deals with a different player market
Okay.
than Europe does. So I was playing in the fourth division in Sweden, and our team was a little older with guys who had a lot of experience. So there were a couple guys that had played in like pretty attractive premier divisions,
Right.
like back when they were in their prime, really young,
Yeah.
have Europa League experience.
Right.
And now they're maybe in their early 30s. A couple guys were late 30s.
Right.
Um, just kind of coming over to Sweden, better life, collect that paycheck,
Right.
and pass the game on to us younger guys trying to break through.
Right.
So that learning experience was awesome because maybe as a younger person, I'm more fit, I cover more ground, I can be seemingly more impactful in games.
Right.
But then you take the time to really watch these older guys and you see their movement and the way that they play and the specific kind of touches that they take and the way they shift their hips.
Yeah.
It's all incredible to watch, and it's such a cool learning experience.
Wow. And so you played one season in Sweden, and
Yes.
what team was that again?
IFK OS. So it's the A with like a little circle on the top.
Okay. Cool. And then you're back right now, and you're searching for your next opportunity in this unique time of life for all of us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I was super fortunate to be able to land an agent this year. So it's kind of nice because the way that it normally works if you don't have an agent, I mean, it's always called the off-season scramble, regardless of what your situation is.
Right.
But um, it's kind of nice because finally you have someone going to bat for you that's not yourself.
Okay.
And they have, I kind of think of it as like they're gatekeepers to um, a network of people you may not necessarily have access to if you were trying to do it yourself.
Right. So
Yeah,
how do
but
you break into that position that you made it to. You have an agent now. You have someone
Mhm.
supporting you and helping you get the next opportunity.
Yeah, so to and that was more kind of, this guy I was connected to, through a friend.
Mhm.
But normally how it works, if you're not a big fish, so I had to do a lot of cold calling again. So I'm sending emails and calling agents, and you know I send my CV, my highlight video to everyone. And then again, I heard from a lot of people who are like, hey, keep grinding. We think that you're on a good path, but this year we're not going to take you on or represent you and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
um, but then luckily, just through continuing to ask questions and
Right.
send out things, my friend put me in touch with someone that he really trusted, and now we're connected and working together, and it's awesome. It's been a cool experience so far.
So another one of those hundred cold call situations to land another.
Yeah, and like you gotta ask, you've got to verbalize what you want, and they say like closed mouths don't get fed, and that's so true.
Right. And
Yeah,
what?
and it's not to say to be like arrogant about it, but you have to verbalize what you want.
So is it more than just saying I want to go pro, or what is that statement referring to specifically?
Like to the agents or just in general?
Yeah, you're saying you got to tell them what you want. I mean,
Mhm.
I, what does that mean? Um,
Like if we're talking to the agent.
yeah, I mean, it's
Okay,
probably what
so
I want to contact,
um
right?
yeah, normally like when you go to an agent, yeah, they kind of know like, hey, this kid wants to go pro, whatever. But really the CV and the video are the biggest thing, because that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at your soccer resume, your playing history,
Yeah.
potential accolades, goal, like all that kind of stuff, and watch the highlight tape. So that's really going to do a lot of the talking for you.
Okay.
And if you haven't gotten there yet, then I think it's good to go to places like Bridges. There are a few combines or showcases I think are good. That's kind of tricky when you get into that area, because I also think a lot of them are scams.
Okay. Right.
Um, but for me, like coming out of the Minnesota United reserves in the NPSL, my resume, if I sent that, they'd be like, okay, cool, like see you, dude.
Right. Exactly.
So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Bridges, where they helped me get my foot in the door. And even though I wasn't able to go on that European trip, I was at least put in a position where I could network with other players, and like we've all helped each other out immensely. Almost, oh, I wouldn't say more so, because Bridges provides that opportunity,
Yeah.
but there's just a lot of inner networking through the players.
Wow. Okay. So you got to put together that resume. You got to
Yes.
start getting film. What kind of accolades? You're here in Minnesota. You're playing college ball. What kind of accolades do you think these people are looking for? What
Man,
does stand out?
ah, to be honest,
Right.
I have no idea, because what's crazy is my college career in terms of statistics
Right.
wasn't that good.
Okay.
I scored maybe 4 goals
Right.
in my entire college career.
As a
Um,
defensive back, though, right? Defensive midfielder.
well, yeah, I was playing the 10.
Okay. All right. So you're on.
Yeah, and playing the wing. So, but not a lot of goals, not a lot of assists. Um, but I mean, anything helps, like if you're all conference, all
Right.
region, all American, like those are big ones that'll stand out for sure. And if you don't have those, then really you're just going to take an unorthodox path, where you've just got to grind and hear no and keep going and be
Right.
persistent and get tough skin. And
Yeah.
yeah, but if you want it, you're persistent, you have the talent and the work ethic, then keep going.
Amazing, man. Okay. Well, yeah. If you have any last kind of words you want to leave with these kids and young adults pursuing the path to go pro,
Yeah.
here and then.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest takeaways are just like ask questions, step out of your comfort zone, um, embrace failure. And then the other thing too is like we've been fed stories about what we're capable of by people who may have our best interest in mind,
Right.
but these same people may not have a concept of our capacity. So I think it's cool to be able to prove people wrong, but also prove yourself right, and like just I hope, that they can everyone watching, everyone listening can take some things here and really take it to heart and go forward, because you and I, we want to just see the game grow, and we want to see people be successful and see people's lives changed for the better through sport. So
Exactly.
that's just, yeah, I mean, it's cool. Soccer is such a cool tool to be able to put yourself in a better life situation. It's unbelievable whether you go pro or not. There's so many life lessons that you can learn through sport, and it's incredible. So I'm really happy that you're doing this podcast or this like interview video, everything, because every interaction that people have with you is an opportunity to just continue to learn more. So like I appreciate what you're doing. This is really cool.
I appreciate you, Aaron. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope these kids and these young adults learn something from your story here. Amazing story. We wish you the best. I hope we can come together and support you on your journey too, from Minnesota, and all the kids that are watching. Make sure you give him a follow. We'll include your socials on there. He's got
For sure.
blog. Your blog, dude, is the greatest thing ever, by the way. One story, you got me hooked, man. He's an amazing writer too, by the way.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
There, yeah, and anything we can do for you to support you, we're here for you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Please don't feel sorry. Took the good with the bad, no pain, no glory. I was born rich, so I never feel like poor me. Nah, that ain't me. I came in the game like a pioneer. Shout out to my squad and the iron team. My struggle become a hustle, what the irony. When I rap, everybody feel the Holy Ghost. It's a rap when I pull up in the Holy Ghost. Drop top, hop that, looking like a top shot. Number one, I'm gunning straight to the top spot.